welcome back. It's exactly 11:38 a.m. We're now going to be talking with Roshni Parbhoo-Seetha. She is the project manager for education at SADAG, and we're going to talk about the panic you don't see, and why it's especially important to highlight this on Panic Awareness Day, which we've just come out of. It was observed on the 10th of July. So let's understand what is this disorder and how we can support our loved ones if they are going through this. Roshni Parbhoo-Seetha, very good morning. Welcome to the program. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so the Panic You Don't See, Panic Awareness Day. I'm quite surprised to have come across this, but I guess it's very, very important regarding our mental health and wellness.
Yeah. So, Panic Awareness Day is a day that we celebrate yearly, every single year. It's on the calendar, 10th of July, every single year. And I think, it's so important to highlight days like this because we don't often talk about things like panic awareness. How often do we talk about panic? And I think, when you put it on a calendar, and when we celebrate days like this, it's nice for us to be able to create those conversations. It's a conversation starter.
I'm kind of wondering, people who are very easily panicked, and we have different personality types.
Yeah.
There are certain people that would panic for almost anything. And we as society, we fob them off as being attention seeking or overly dramatic.
Yeah.
How do you explain that it's real for them? And if they don't get the support and if they're not ridiculed, they can overcome it, hopefully.
And that's the important thing. And that's why we have awareness days like this, because people don't talk about their mental health struggles for reasons like this, because we are so worried about being judged. We are so worried about being ridiculed. We are so worried about people saying, oh, look, they're being dramatic. And so people don't talk about it. And that's the reason, because we do say, oh, well, get over it. Stop being so dramatic. Stop looking for attention. And so when we have days like this, we get to talk about it. We get to reduce that stigma that it isn't something that we are looking for attention for. It's a real illness. And so when we have days like Panic Awareness Days, and when we have topics or themes like the panic you don't see, because with things like panic, we often see the hyperventilating, we see the screaming, we see the sweating. There's things that we don't see with panic. And when we talk about things like that, it helps others realize that, there's a lot of signs that you don't actually see that are going on under the surface. And it's a learning that we all need to do.
What comes to mind, sadly, and the realization that with Panic Awareness Day and panic disorders, people don't realize that it is a mental health disorder,
Yeah.
that and you're going to correct us here and you're going to tell us what needs to happen. If you have a loved one who panics from time to time, you talk about it being the silent panic disorder. You talk
Yeah.
about it as being a silent disease.
Yeah.
How will I know my loved one is suffering from this particular disorder, and what can I do to assist?
So, we use words like disease, we use words like disorder. And that's, I think, step one is when we use words like disorder and disease, that's what stops our loved ones from coming to us and speaking about it, right? Because it already has such a negative connotation. So when we say things like illness, when we go out to schools or when we speak at wellness events or when we speak at companies, we explain to people that just changing the way we speak about it, like even using the word committing suicide, for example. And I'm going to use that as a very, as an example. When we change the way we use words, changing it from a negative to something less negative. So when we say panic or mental illness as opposed to a disorder or a disease, it changes the narrative. So when we realize that our loved ones have that sort of an illness. And we help them understand that, you know what, if you had something like diabetes or you had something like cancer, you would so easily come to me and say, look, I just found out I have diabetes or I have cancer. And you would talk to me about it and tell me how you feel. But why is it when you find out you have depression or you have panic, you almost feel embarrassed to come and speak to me about it? And so that's the conversations we need to have. And so the things we need to look out for. Or number one, research, learn, educate yourselves. And there's so much education to do, not only when you find out that you have the illness. You have to find out when you are a loved one, like, what do I need to learn, how do I need to support, and we're constantly learning. What we knew 30 years ago, when SADAG first started, to what we know now, we're constantly learning. And so I think
Wow.
number one is we need to educate ourselves, and that's why awareness days like these are so important, because our family members are battling a silent illness, and we need to make it so loud. We need to create that noise.
So, Roshni, what would be the politically correct term to use rather than mental health issue, mental disorder, or a disorder, or an illness? I'm trying
Yeah.
to
So mental
understand.
illness is
You know,
perfect, or
there's no
but
negative connotation to that mental illness or a mental disorder.
right. So when you say like when we say disease, that's different. Or when we say she's struggling with a mental health issue, like, you're not struggling, you're dealing with it. Just like we would be dealing with cancer. It's something that comes into our life and we're going to handle it. We're going to tackle it head on. And so we need to realize that, I think when everyone sees it as a disease, that's where our problem comes in. It's not a disease, it's an illness, like any other illness, like the flu, like cancer, like diabetes. It's an illness. And that's where we that's where we start destigmatizing it, and we realize that it's an illness like any other illness. And so
So
mental
let me
health
come in
is
here. Let me come
yeah,
in here.
yeah,
What would be, we often lay people confuse the word illness with disease and vice versa. What
yes.
would the difference be?
Okay, so an illness, so a disease has a negative connotation, right? A disease is something that comes in that destroys your. Okay, so when we first start describing health, what is the difference between mental health and mental illness? Okay, and that's where we always start. When we start any of our talks, wherever we are going, what is the difference between mental health and mental illness? And it's the same way that you would describe what is the difference between physical health and physical illness. And so we are all born with mental health. Okay, we are all born mentally healthy. What is mental illness is something that disrupts that mental health. Okay, it would be your depression, it would be your panic, and it's something where you are feeling physically unwell. Okay, so that would be the difference, and you would equate it to your physical health. We are all born physically healthy until there is something that would disrupt that physical health and makes you physically unwell, and then you are physically ill. And so it's the exact same thing. There's a difference between mental health and mentally ill. And
Okay.
so I do
All
not,
right.
I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We need to go for an ad break. When we come back, what I do want to unpack is we associate panic attacks with visible, dramatic symptoms.
Yes.
Um, what are some of the less known or invisible symptoms that people should be aware of? Or is, this disease or this illness, does
Yeah,
it always present in a very dramatic way? But you can respond right after the ad break. Please stay with
perfect.
us.
I will.
Banks of the Crocodile River bordering the Kruger National Park. As a guest at Buckler's Africa Lodge, one can enjoy an amazing sunrise or sunset on our spacious deck area while you catch a glimpse of some wildlife sightings along the Crocodile River. The sounds of the African savanna will greet you whilst you enjoy your morning coffee. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Buckler's Africa Lodge is ideally situated only 6 kilometers from the Crocodile Bridge Gate in the Kruger National Park. Catering for all travelers with variety, we have 4 types of the finest rooms: superior rooms, deluxe suites, and 2-bedroomed family units. Each room is equipped with the finest amenities to make your stay unforgettable. Guests can choose between the self-catering option or book their accommodation with breakfast and dinner included. Buckler's Africa Lodge is your ideal location for the ultimate Kruger getaway experience. We specialize in exhilarating and educational game drives in Kruger, tailor-made to suit your family. Inquire about our various accommodation offerings and other activities. Visit www.tingana.co.za for more information. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Experience the pulse of Africa with us.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic, Sharia, and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Kids these days are smart, and when you're competing for their attention against their smartphones, you need to make smart choices, like using Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil in every meal you make. It's naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether you're cooking, frying, or baking, you get the great tasting results that'll get their attention faster than the latest app. And if that doesn't work, change the Wi-Fi password. Sunfoil. Now we're cooking.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
We're talking about invisible distress. We're talking shedding light on silent panic disorders with SADAG's Roshni Parbhoo-Seetha. She is the project manager for education. Welcome back, Roshni. Would you like to respond to the question put to you before the ad break?
Right. So you asked, many people associate panic attacks with dramatic symptoms. So, we often see people mimic what looks like a heart attack, and that is a panic attack. So, some of the lesser known symptoms include a persistent sense of dread. So, like, those knots in the tummy, difficulty breathing, but without the obvious hyperventilation. There's a feeling of being detached from reality. There's an unexplained chest discomfort. There's dizziness, there's nausea, or also an overwhelming fear of losing control. So these are just some of the symptoms that occur without any outward sign of distress. So we don't notice that hyperventilation, that, where they look like they're having a heart attack. And so then it makes it very difficult for others on the outside to see that they are experiencing that panic attack.
I think very importantly here is the question regarding men and mental health issues, and very particularly regarding panic disorders or panic attacks. Your campaign, SADAG's campaign, also highlights the struggles that men face with panic
Yeah.
anxiety due to stigma. How do we go about breaking this mask of masculinity and encourage men to seek help? And I'm kind of wondering, when a woman, and I know it's different from person to person, male or female,
Yeah.
but we often associate, like we've been talking throughout the program, that we always wait for these very visible dramatic signs of a panic attack. Is it different for men? Totally different? Are they just very silent about their panic attacks?
So, look, men in general um, tend to not seek out help, because I think for us, men have to appear a lot more stronger, emotionally stronger. You have to mask your emotions. There's that. Uh, Men aren't allowed to cry. And I think as communities, we need to normalize emotional vulnerability when it comes to men. We have to promote that open, non-judgmental conversations, and we are doing it. I mean, we have so many male support groups that SEDEG runs. Um, there are a lot of men that now speak about it, but a lot of men don't come out. So many women find it so much easier to talk about their emotions. So I think campaigns, workplaces, schools, even our faith groups, we all play such a big part in sharing our stories and highlighting, um, uh, you know, or even encouraging our male health ambassadors to speak about what they are going through. So I think encouraging that help seeking behavior will help to dismantle the stigma that we have where males don't talk about it. But unfortunately, what happens is that a lot more women come out and ask for help and speak about what they are going through. But I'm not saying that a lot of men don't do it, because we do have males speaking about what they're going through. We do have males starting support groups and running support groups, and actually speaking on platforms about what they are going through. And that's where it starts. That's where this destigmatization starts. And that's where we break down the stigma. So, yes, men are coming out, but I think in our communities, we need to normalize speaking about our feelings and our emotions. A lot of men do go through panic attacks and do experience panic attacks. They just don't speak about it as much as women do.
So, Roshni, I want to understand, if I have a loved one that does have this mental health issue, panic
Yeah.
attacks from time to time. I'm sure it doesn't present on a very regular basis. It would
Yeah.
depend on the circumstances. What do I do to support my loved one, male or female? And in a
Yeah.
situation like this, does it mean that you rush them to an emergency room or to a medical health professional? How does one cope with it?
Yeah. So I think number one, the one thing I want you to know is that you will not always know what the answers are and what the right and wrong thing to do is. It's very overwhelming in this situation. So, number one, should you know that your family member suffers with panic, learn about it, educate yourself, read up. Go on to SEDEG's website, www.sedeg.org. We have an online toolkit. We have a whole page dedicated to panic. Learn about it. At the time, there are so many different techniques to help calm your loved one down, but find a professional that helps them. The most important thing to know is that panic is very, very treatable, and you can live a very normal life with panic. And so find the right sort of help. Find the right sort of help that works for you. There isn't a one size fits all for everyone. And so my first point of call for you would be reach out to SEDEX, speak to a counselor, and we can then refer you to what your best resource is in your area. You are not alone in this. So if your loved one is struggling with panic, learn about it, reach out to a counselor, find the right sort of help. it is very, very treatable. You need to find the right sort of therapist that deals with CBT, and it is so treatable. I think that's the best sort of advice that I can give you. Learn
Okay.
about it.
I've got to wrap up now. My next guest is standing by, but you've just mentioned the magic word, cognitive behavioral therapy. Um, can a person overcome any or most conditions by changing their thought patterns through CBT, whether it's panic attacks or any other mental health issue?
Yes, absolutely. So, it is really is mind over matter, and especially with panic, CBT is your best point of call. So, yes, with anything mental health related, reach out to a counselor at SADAG, and we can give you some sort of advice.
Roshni Parbhoo-Seetha, I can't thank you enough. You are the project manager for education at SADC, and I love talking to you about obviously panic attacks. It's something that we dismiss. We think it's unimportant. We think the person's being dramatic. We just do not understand it enough, and we don't give the support that is needed to the people who need it. So thank you for highlighting this, and I do hope we'll talk again sometime in the future regarding mental health.
Yes, thank you so much.
It is exactly 11:59. We're moving along, and we are now going to be joined by our next guest, who is Mahbooba Bobby Jacobs, and it is about Food Forward, SA Fund Development. And of course, Mahbooba is the development manager for Food Forward. So let's hear what that's all about.